All right.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ready to have a monster of a podcast?
A monstrous podcast.
Not just a monster of a
Mhm.
podcast. Yes,
Right,
yes.
right, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right.
As we know, this podcast didn't have any childhood trauma.
Nope, not
No,
at all.
It didn't have
at all.
choices made for it that
Mhm.
affected its entire life. You know,
And it's podcast 91, and you were born in 1991.
that
so
is true.
Is that a
is
coincidence
true.
or not?
Possibly. I wouldn't see necessarily any direct correlation there. Mesker1, good to see you here.
Mm-hmm.
And Amju, thank you so much for hanging out with us here. Nintendo. Awesome,
Welcome.
awesome. Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Daedra, is the audio a bit low, or am I tripping?
No, I think you might be just tripping.
Yeah,
Yeah. Possibly a little bit lower. I can just double check to make sure. But I think it's pretty much normal. The podcast didn't choose to be the Monster Anime Review podcast. You decided its whole runtime before it even started broadcasting. Indeed. In fact, you could almost say that this podcast was nurtured entirely into being.
Who's to say? Who's
Yeah.
to say?
It's not to fault for its nature.
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
no, not at all. Watching this without having seen an episode of Monster, this should be good. I
Yeah.
mean, on some level, we are going to talk about some major spoilers with regards to Monster, but you will still get a lot out of watching the
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
regardless of what we talk about in this actual stream here.
Because Monster is very much one of those like simple premise, but like flawless execution, or not necessarily flawless. Like I suppose you could find flaws, but it's just absolutely excellent.
Yeah, I think one way that we'll probably end up repeating all throughout it is that Monster knew what kind of show it wanted to be, and it stuck with it
Yep.
the entire way through.
Ugh, even though 74 episodes, like think about that.
74 episodes of consistent
However
theming,
long that would have been in the manga.
incredible characters all
Yep.
the way throughout, and ending so well. In
Mhm.
fact, in some ways, we were genuinely worried it wasn't going to stick the landing.
Right, and even though like, am I kind of pissed that
You
They
didn't get
didn't-
every answer
that-
you wanted.
well, like okay, like I'm okay with the fact that I didn't get my favorite ship becoming canon of Ava Lungion, or Ava Lungion, but
it's Ava Lungian, yeah.
yeah, Ava Lungion. But the thing is that I was ready for it because I knew that wasn't really going to happen, even though I could dream.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't get the conversation. Like we didn't really get the conversation. And while the window being open and the bed empty, it's like it's fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, you want more. You know that a show is that good that when it ends, the only thing you're really disappointed on is that it didn't keep going.
Johan could beat Thanos.
No,
Impossible.
Lung could beat Thanos. Like Lung is a badass. Can we just stop right here and appreciate that Lung went on the most incredible of character arcs all throughout this story.
Well,
Ava went on an amazing character arc throughout this episode. This show.
Here's the thing. The only way the arc for Lung and Ava, I know this might seem like I'm just beating a dead horse here, but the thing is that episode where they split the focus between Lung and Ava was so damn good. Like that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Even looking back on it and all the amazing episodes in Monster, that episode.
Well, we'll get into specific episodes.
Goddamn mind. Like
we'll go into specific episodes eventually. But let's get a little bit more in touch with chat here. It's like, oh, don't get me wrong. I often spoil myself to stories and enjoy watching how they get there. Okay, cool. No, I'm not tripping. Checking multiple Twitch streamers with same settings, your volume is lower. That's probably because there's something lower with regards to ours.
But like in relation to our previous ones, possibly. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, well, they the way they were saying is checking multiple Twitch streamers as to assume all those other Twitch streamers have the same volume of audio.
But, assuming they're checking multiple variables,
Yeah. Okay, for those of you that haven't seen Monster, watch it. It's possibly the most well-written anime series I've ever watched. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that we can proudly say about this story is that it's actually really, really well written.
Right.
And this is coming off of the backdraft of a certain not so well written show.
Yeah, which goes in with the other question of did the show kind of forget anything like in terms of story, plot, character? The closest thing I would say actually would be Ava's character, because there was a lot of focus that was given to her, but then the resolutions that she got, it was like, oh, okay, the lunch episode, which wasn't that
was perfect.
That was perfect for her, but that episode itself,
See, the thing is that y'all, you're going to get attached to a lot of these characters,
even if they're just in one episode.
You have to deal with the fact that this is a story that has a ton of named characters, and this is also about 60% an episodic show,
which is crazy, but it does it so well. Like the themes for Monster, like when we were like, okay, talking about Monster, what do we talk about? The first thing that both of us thought of was themes, because it has them on point.
Again, we're not going to go directly into that because I've got to also do the VIP patron shout out.
Oh, that's right.
Checking out all the things here, making sure I have everyone in here and stuff. Okay, so before we get too far into this, we are going to be talking about a lot of Monster spoilers.
Yes.
So if you want a clean experience regarding Monster, meaning that you don't want any spoilers, we will try to keep things as not heavy detailed spoilers as possible.
Although you'd really want to just like leave and go watch Monster because Monster's that good.
Like, the thing is that it's going to take you a long time to watch it. So if you're here to watch it, watch this with us and talk about this with us, we will be talking about a lot of things regarding Monsters.
Just try not to take notes,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll forget about a lot of things because there's probably about 20 names for characters in here that you'll just be like, oh, what?
Yeah.
So before we also get into this, we have to give a shout out to one of our returning VIP patrons, Mango. Mango, thank you so much for the support, and it's cool to see you back on the Discord.
That's right.
The hiatus was something where we missed you, and now that you're back, it's good to have you. So appreciate the support, Mango, and thank you so much for everything there.
Well, just to chime in, the sound is actually really low because I have to put up my volume way higher than usual for normal audio levels.
That's genuinely worrying because on our level, basically the audio
shows us still
going really good. So I will do a quick little thing where I will check to see what let me turn off desktop audio so you guys don't hear this, but I'm gonna check our settings to see how this sounds here. Give me a brief minute there, Jacob. Can you just chat with me for a second?
Basically, okay. So the reason why I ship Evangelon so much is because
hold on. Sorry. Talking, and I'm hearing what we're saying, and it's not that quiet. So maybe it's you. But if there's a couple people, hold on.
Right, the max volume should not be a normal volume.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I suppose we could try turning it up a little bit.
Yeah, but I can at least pump up this and see what it does.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But maybe it's the work of an enemy stand. Or maybe it's just the fear of Johan, you know? Like it's affecting people. Yeah. They don't want to listen directly to us talking about it because it causes too much fear within their hearts. Yeah.
The person that was complaining about the volume said, well, there's spoilers, so I'm leaving it. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Johan with a stand would be the most powerful thing in the universe. I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we'll be talking about specifically with Johan and stuff. Also, this is another thing, y'all. Twitch has been really, really like wonky recently. So I don't really trust that it's even specifically our thing or it's on your end. It might just be on Twitch's end.
That's
So yeah. Hey, Sagacious Lass with the tier
Hey.
2 sub.
Thank
What
you.
the heck? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Oh my gosh.
Good discussion. What would be Johan's stand?
Okay, let's go more serious now that we've got all the stuff out of the way. Okay. So the themes of this show are the main talking point. Like,
Right.
let's be real. The main thing about Monster's characters that makes it not the first talking point, in my opinion, is that the characters are primarily handling their story arcs through an episodic format.
Yep.
Tenma gets the most screen time, but he actually changes it's not that he changes the least, it's that his arc is actually the one that is probably one of the least powerful of the main 5 or 7 characters.
Right, because the thing is that in the same way that Johan is like this force on the one side, right? Tenma's the opposing force.
Yeah.
And while he's not necessarily as sure of himself, because it's all about how his beliefs are called into question,
Yeah.
he does very much stick to them. So it's not so much as like him necessarily growing as a person, but rather losing his naivete and like putting his beliefs to the test and seeing if they'll actually hold fast, making sure that he won't lose his way. And he does.
Totally. So Faded RN, thank you so much for the follow.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So with the themes of Monster, a lot of the things that go into not just what makes the characters the strong characters that they are, but the show's name basically giving away one of the primary themes of the story, and that is basically the nature of humanity.
Yep.
When you have a lot of characters in a drama format, on some level you have to explore what makes people
Right.
and how people are different, and not only how people are different, but how people react or act when put into certain situations. And that's primarily where the word drama comes from.
Exactly.
It's just people being involved
in dramatic things.
In dramatic things, and then responding as such, you know, in a dramatic way or however. So when Monster basically gives us this ensemble cast of characters that trickle in over the course of, I would say, the first 12 episodes or so, there's a lot of them, but when we go into every single character beyond their initial first, moments and stuff, they give us a lot to go on that makes us question whether or not they're a person we even should be rooting for, or what drives that person, whether or not they're doing this because of some impetus behind them, or some tragic backstory, or what have you.
A lot of the characters, in fact, you're specifically not rooting for, and it's kind of their journey with dealing with all their own problems in their own different ways, and sometimes different characters will bump into each other and they'll be able to help each other with their problems. Sometimes they won't, and
Tenma's whole thing seems to be about helping people regardless of who they are, what they've done, what their past is, and just kind of being there as being kind of this perfect lawful good character who comes in and gives this, I will help you because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But over the course of the show, he loses a lot of that. He loses sight of a lot of his way, if you will.
Because the premise in a lot of ways is that you have the lawful good character who is given the chaotic good mission.
Chaotic good? No, it's not good at all. He's killing someone.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good. That's at the very least lawfully off, so that goes into the chaotic side of things.
But that's the thing, is that it's the whole thing of the because even if it's something that it's the should I do this, it's still the thing of I need to do this for the good of the other people. Right.
Yeah, I would say it goes into more lawful neutral. I mean, if anything, just because he
Lawful neutral. Interesting.
I don't know. Actually, maybe you're right in the chaotic good side of things. But let's screw
Yeah,
D&D
yeah.
alignments. They're stupid. So with the themes of this story being primarily about people dealing with their pain, their problems, and how they react to it and such, all the characters involved, especially the main three, are basically either on one side of their problems or the other. So with
Right.
Tenma, he's more, I would say, with his problems being something that are in his present. He's currently dealing with them.
Yes.
You have Johan and Anna, or soon to be, eventually Nina, and their problems are all kind of in their past. And while
but they work their way into the present.
The point is that their primary thing is that they have horrible pasts and they're being shaped by them. Tenma's past is something that we get to see played out right in front of him over the course of the story. As he basically goes out through it and stuff, his present becomes his past as he
grows out his hair and all that stuff.
Yeah. He kind of loses himself as a person. Oh my god. And while Johan and Anna don't really get the character focus necessary in order to become fully fleshed out three-dimensional characters early on in the story, because they're kids for one.
Yeah.
But also there's the whole enigmatic aspect of their mystery and what they mean for the plot and story. When Johan gets any kind of focus, though, there's this idea that you have to question why. Why does his character exist the way he is? What he is an aberration of nature and, what have you. And you as a person are forced to question, why is he the way he is?
Yeah,
and
is it just some twisted nature, or was it because he was made like this, or what?
Well, that's kind of the same thing, but but yes. Oh, you mean nature versus nurture?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So right. I was meaning just the end result. That nature was aberrated. Basically, nature was twisted, regardless of whether it originated from the outside or the inside.
He is a deviant of sorts, shall we say?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And we are basically forced to ask, where did that come from?
Right.
Why did that come from?
Yep.
And I would say almost like over and over and over again throughout the show, they bring up in a ton of characters whether or not they were a nature or this is a nature or nurture kind of argument show.
Well, and also just the complexity of people and the fact that, the idea of good and bad people because you do good or bad things doesn't always hold up, because it's more complicated than that. They show how there are characters where, maybe they're good people, but they did that bad thing a long time ago, or they're bad people, bad people. But then there are these points where they do things that are good, and it's like, okay, it's not so straightforward, right? There aren't really any. Well, okay, no, there are villains in Monster, definitely, but the way they handle certainly Johan, even though you expect him to be the villain, is not that way.
Okay, so right, but back to the nature versus nurture thing.
Okay.
When they bring up all the other characters that are brought up in the story and stuff, you hear of these characters that are unsuspecting, just regular people, right? But then they're like, they were a U-boat, technician of some kind. And then they talk about their story and why they did these things. Right. And they each kind of have their own kind of questions as to, why did I do this?
Right, and that's the thing, is that the characters in Monster are people. Like, they're just people. And you can see their journey of how they came to be wherever they're at, that you get to see, in present time in the show. But there's always different things affecting that, whether it's the job they had, or just the friends they had, or whatever, or their own personal outlook on life, or whatever.
Gotcha. So would you say in the earlier parts of Monster they were more definitive about the argument of nature versus nurture, or less definitive?
I mean, specifically for like Johan?
For all the characters. I said for the show. So the earlier parts of the show, Were they more definitive? Because Johan didn't have a character in the earlier parts of the show.
Right, because he didn't have a character, I would say it was very much more nature rather than nurture. Because, like, you know, when you think about Tenma being the good doctor, or the people in the hospital being all corrupt and whatnot, and Johan being some, you know, crazy killer. And
Gotcha. So my question wasn't about whether it was nature versus nurture, but was it more definitive or less definitive regarding whether they were taking a stance in the argument?
I would say it was more definitive as much as it could be when they weren't going into detail. So, you know, because they hadn't fully fleshed everything out. So it was, it was very much.
So were they? So you're saying they were more definitive,
yes,
than less definitive in the earlier parts of the show?
Actually, you know that's tough, because by the end of the show, it's very much a nurture thing.
It's very much a nurture thing by the end of the show. What I'm trying to basically see is that I'm wondering if in the beginning of the show they wanted you to basically be unsure, because they basically presented, I would say, an equal part for the nature side of things as they did the nurture things in the beginning. So it makes you think, obviously these are evil people. These hospital people are evil people. This Johan's an evil person.
They started it with a verse from Revelations, for crying out loud, you know.
And then when they start introducing the real people, which are, in my opinion, not the main characters, but side characters.
Yeah,
the side characters are where this show really shines.
Because the thing is that Tenma, if it was just Tenma in another story, right, he's similar in a lot of ways to, like, Superman, or, you know, or something like that. You know, the bear with me, Caleb.
Okay.
You know, the idea that basically he's the person who stands for what is right, and you know, and doesn't do the bad stuff. But then there's that complication, right?
Gotcha.
It's not so simple. And in another story, I could see someone like Tenma being rather boring, right? If he didn't have all these other characters that he was interacting with, all these people that he was helping along the way, right? It could get pretty stale. But because of these side characters, it's not. Like, and that's the thing that constantly blows me away, is how the episodic nature of a lot of the show, and you know, the side characters that might be there for only one episode adds so much to the whole.
Gotcha. So is it more or less defined maybe for the side characters specifically in the earlier parts of Monster with regards to the argument of nature versus nurture, in your opinion?
I would say it's very defined.
Okay, towards nature or nurture?
Nurture.
Okay, cool. Because I'm thinking then that this might be one of the biggest cool kind of things in the narrative structure of Monster, is they have these arcs, right? These actual, like, story arcs where the episodes
like
are not
baby,
episodic.
Yeah.
And then they have the episodic stuff where in some ways the soul of the show resides. Like the truest aspect of the themes of the story are really simply not personified, but kind of exemplified in those episodic episodes.
Sure.
Like some of your favorite episodic episodes, or some of your favorite episodes in the show, are the most episodic episodes, other than maybe ones that go heavily into certain character focus.
Yeah, like there's certain, like, there are episodes that have like crazy, like, bombshell, you know, reveals and twists and things like that, and those are wonderful. But like, I wasn't as big of a fan of, like, say the arc with the baby, you know, and they have to, you know, stop him from burning down the, you know, the city and whatnot. Like that definitely had good moments to it and whatnot, don't get me wrong, but like, as far as like the best parts of Monster for me, it's those quiet moments with those characters that, you know, you just met.
Right, like the girl and the soldier one.
Right, or the doctor that Tenma helps, you know, and the stubborn old lady, you know, that makes the goulash and everything.
Yeah.
And like that kind of stuff. Because before that, it's like it felt very crisply like, yes, you know, Johan evil, Tenma good, and Tenma's going to go stop him, and, you know, and all this stuff. And then, but then the fact that he sees all these people that aren't so clear cut, right? They're just people, and they've, you know, done good things and bad. It makes it so that then Tenma is also asking the question of, is there a possibility that Johan's kind of like this too? You know?
Yeah. So my thought is that those episodes are actually like so defined in terms of the the argument of things,
Mm-hmm.
in that you see very clearly, because in some ways the stories are simpler, that the nature of these characters is one that's already solidified. And if anything, we see how the nurture of the environment is something that plays out as being something that changes them from one dramatic nature, section to another one, showcasing that in their backstory they had a moment where they dramatically changed.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them in their story usually show or tell, or no, usually not show, but they usually tell that, or we get to see maybe the tail end of it when Tenma shows up and does his
Sure.
doctor thing
Yeah,
that helps him there. In the earlier parts with the main characters, they do a very good job of barely giving you a hint to go on with regards to the I would say the nature versus nurture argument of those characters, especially for the characters who are like newly introduced, like, like a few episodes into the show. I would say like Lung is a great example of that. He's kind of an enigma before he starts to go on his arc. Johan is introduced, a couple episodes in some ways, because him arriving at the hospital with the whole incident and everything, he's not even really a character until he's awake in the hospital bed, and even then he's not even really delved into as much
until Kinderheim.
Well, there's Kinderheim, but yeah, also the moments with Junkers in the parking garage.
But even then, that's more of just his reveal of this is the kind of person that he is.
I would say less so regarding the multidimensional stuff, but even at that point, he's very much a hard caricature that basically we have nothing to go on nurture wise other than this is what he's doing, right? So we can kind of extrapolate out his nature based on that,
right? Exactly, and that's why I think it's kind of like it was both intentional that they made it seem like nature so much in the beginning, but it's also easier to do that when you don't know as much about someone, because you don't know how they got to their story, right? Like if someone cuts in front of you in traffic, you can be like, that asshole, right? But like you don't know what led them to do that. They might be late for work or something, right?
So with the themes of nature versus nurture, the story takes you on a journey of understanding, and I would say definitively so, is that all of it is nurture, to the point of where in the very end of the show they basically make the question of whether or not a coin flip determines the nature of a specific character for the rest of their life.
Yep.
Basically saying the slightest choices, the smallest, the tiniest little choices basically decided an entire character's life story.
And yet what's great about that is that they still leave it, they still leave that bit of nature in there, because there's the idea that even though the coin flip treated this person favorably, maybe it was just that the coin flip wasn't such a simple coin flip, or was it that maybe there was some nature of the person to more readily accept those kinds of things, so they try and take the burden on for the other person who lost the coin flip,
but again, that's all supposition. That's all just
exactly.
Something that the show poses as a question.
And they don't answer, because
they don't answer. But in terms of giving actual concrete kind of stuff towards saying we lean towards this area in the conversation, they lean so hard in the end towards nurture, to the point where it's basically saying, oh, you thought that these people were just horrible, evil, people and what have you.
Not so simple.
No, people's choices matter, and also the cumulative effect of people's choices matters a lot. And that's something that maybe is where the real beauty of Monster comes into play, is because there's a lot of wholesome humanity, despite the dark name of the show, despite the dark nature of the show, despite it having one of the most legendary antagonists in all of anime.
Or that episode with the kid that gets sent down
A road.
A road.
With a few words,
Yeah.
our villain sends a young child down a road, and
to destruction.
to
In every sense of the word.
yes, in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
And it's something to showcase how chilling not only this character is in Johan, but how chilling everything regarding the show is. So,
And the whole nurture aspect.
yes, exactly. There's a lot of themes that go into not just, the psychology of people and stuff like that, but also I would say regarding children and how how important in some ways our actions around children are because of how much of this story is focused around the origins of characters at childhood.
Right.
Like you go into even characters like Grimmer, even characters in some ways like Roberto,
And even Tenma a little bit.
even Tenma a little bit,
Even though
yeah.
it's not like super important stuff that they show of his childhood necessarily, but still.
Yeah. So lots of good stuff in there. But let's talk about the kind of the episodic versus arc nature of this show, Jacob. A lot of we mentioned a little bit how good the episodic shows, the episodic episodes are. It sounds so funny to say. This story is surprisingly slow, actually.
Yep. And it didn't feel like it when we started it because the first 4 episodes, even though that seems like, oh, that's, an hour and 20 minutes. It's like, no, but they cover a lot of ground in those 4 episodes. But then it's like, okay, let's go on a journey. And during this journey, there are stops, right? And it's just this idea of, hey, who needs help this week, right? And how will Tenma grow from his interactions with them, right? Because that's one of the things that I think makes the episodic stuff really good is that the main character is struggling, right? And they're struggling even though they're the one that's the bastion of goodness in this world, right?
Yeah. Again, I have so much to counter that just because of how little that lasts in the story in terms of like his spirit, his character and stuff. But I love how much that is something that he almost uses this helping people as like his crutch to fall back on.
Right, exactly.
Whereas it's something that like
to make sure that he isn't losing his way, keep a tether to reality and
yeah, or maintain in some ways the illusion that he hasn't lost his way already.
Or it's the way to basically not choose when he thinks with his head that he should,
right?
But in his heart, he can't.
Yeah.
Right. I maybe gave the show a little bit of crap when Tenma was faced with the decision several different times and had steeled himself to do it and everything and had done other things that made it think like, yeah, he'll be able to do it. And it's like, is it just to prolong the plot of the show because you can't have Johan actually die? Possibly. But everything that he was doing up till that point was reinforcing that I am not going to make this tough call.
Yeah, like that was probably my thing that I loved about it was that in his head he had already lost his way. In his what he had basically been planning to do and where he had been moving to do, and the fact that he was unwilling to go back and fight the good fight there, and in some ways even take on kind of the punishment of the law in some ways. That would be kind of a Suzaku move,
right?
But that's why I don't compare him to Superman. That's why I don't compare him to lawful good, lawful stupid kind of thing. I would say at the very least he's got maybe that chaotic side, but again, I'm horrible at D&D alignments and stuff. It's finding some way where he has to justify his own mistake by somehow going about and doing penance and doing all these good things.
Right.
But he also is constantly reminding himself that the reason why he can't go back and face the music is because he has to do this horrible thing, which is something that he will never do. It is not in his nature to do.
Right.
It is something
which is again,
Yeah. It is something that even though he has had all this negative nurture, all this horrible stuff happen to him, it doesn't change who he is.
And that's part of the whole story of the sort of idyllic hero is the idea that even though there's all this negative nurture, environment, circumstance that makes it so that everything every bit of sort of logic in his head is screaming at him, you have to do this, right? There's that part deep in his heart that's like, but I can't. This isn't me, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Crowley HVA, thank you so much for the follow, and Dango Bro, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime.
Yes.
And good to see you here at Twitch. I've been seeing a bunch in the Discord. It's cool to have you here, buddy.
Yeah.
So talking about Monster, when you guys think back on Monster as a show, what are like those like 2 or 3 like not main characters that really stand out to you? So like no Anna, Johan, or Tenma. Like,
and even Ava or Lung.
Well, like, no, I let them be in there.
Okay, but then they're like the obvious answers.
No, I disagree. Like maybe if anything, like
I feel like Ava, Lung, and Grimmer are just like the 3 like go-tos.
Yeah,
if they're in there.
Yeah, totally. But I want to see like also the characters that, you know, in some ways would surprise us that they would be kind of the you know, the fallback characters for you guys here. Because
I'm also specifically interested in any favorite characters from the episodic ones, like maybe characters that were only in their 1 episode or something, right?
Right.
Because when I think back, like there are so many that I just absolutely love, but there's 74 episodes of Monster, so
right. So an example for me is I really like Martin.
Martin was great.
Ava's bodyguard.
Yep.
Martin is an example of a character who has a very, very, very sympathetic backstory, but ends up doing some very, very horrible things as a result of it. And it's something that makes you go, oh, wow. Even kind of the, you know, the mercenary goon with a gun has a story. They have their own pains, their own problems, their own hurts. And
the kid who walked on the roof. Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even the kids in this freaking show have actual depth and you know, crazy aspects to them.
Yep.
I really love the soldier in the episode where Tenma has the I think it's actually brats or something that he has with them or what have you. But
and he's training him how to use a gun.
He ends up teaching Tenma how to use a gun. That guy had a story that made me like genuinely tear up.
Well, and the resolution too, because the thing is like
Shewald.
Oh yeah, Shewald was great. Yep. Because like a lot of the characters, I feel like in this show, especially in the episodic ones, the story and the humanity that you get to see of them is absolutely moving, and it's incredible. But a lot of the times, it doesn't have as clear of a like, this would be an idyllic resolution, right? That doesn't have a lot of flair to it, but is just real in their life, and that's what they desperately need. But in the case of the girl in the soldier episode, that ending with just the umbrellas in the you know, grabbing, you know, his fingers and holding his hand, that was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, the parents had the son that killed someone. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. Can we talk about the character MVP, Grimmer's son? Yeah.
Yep.
The guy of the
coffee and sugar. I don't remember his name. Yep.
Yes.
I have that guy listed down here. Yep.
Yeah, that was the one that was what was he? The one that had the
he couldn't taste anything, and he watched the
assassin,
the sappy movies and stuff to try and feel things, and and Adolf Junkers. Yeah, Junkers was awesome. Yeah.
So all these characters, all these side characters, are ones that have some kind of incredibly simple, but I would say deep nuance to them. Yeah. So they end up getting communicated rather succinctly and concisely, so that their characters can exit the story rather quickly. But then you get characters like Ava, Lung, Grimmer.
Yep.
And I would say a couple others like Shewald.
Yeah,
even in some ways like
Reichwein
Reichwein, Dr. Gillen, Dieter. Yeah, you have all these other characters that fill that, I would say, just about side character role.
Yeah.
Where, you know, obviously you have characters like Ava and Lung where they're proper side characters, but there are others. Wait, what were you saying?
Someone reminded me of one of the characters. Yes, there's Detective Suck. He's wonderful. But the soldier being connected to the forest and chasing down the person and killing them, and none of the birds ever, you know,
Yep.
going near him since. Yeah, that's
all of those characters are ones that you can write out their part in the story, not their part in the story, but their character bio as presented in the story in a single like 3-sentence paragraph.
Yep.
They're incredibly simple characters.
And that is the beauty of it.
But the beauty of it is that every single one that they spend time in an arc with actually changes. This is the thing I think that's actually amazing.
Yes.
Is that while there are characters that have one-off episodes, and they might
sometimes
change a little
they do
bit.
change in those episodes,
Right.
But a lot of the times it's like
it's circular.
It's right. It's showing you who they are and their plight, and basically how they're constantly working on it just throughout their life.
Right, and generally being they solve their plight with the help of Tenma,
Yeah.
or at the very least they move on to where that plight is not something that's going to affect them anymore. But every character that gets focus in an arc format, like a multi-episode, like a Prague, that Prague arc or something, or the Munich arc with Schuld and the, the library and everything there. All those characters end up getting ample focus to where they can not only change, but they can actually proactively affect the overall story and the plot in a way that moves other characters in the plot. And this is something where by the time I was about 40 episodes into Monster, my head was already hurting with trying to keep all these moving parts just in check.
Yeah.
This is something where this is not they forgot about such and such in the plot side of things. Obviously, we have favorite characters that we wish got more focus.
Yes,
absolutely.
Of course. That always happens.
Absolutely. But we can't let that keep us from the fact that the show handled an ensemble cast by in some ways not letting the ensemble cast be more than what it was supposed to be. The side characters, not even side characters, the tertiary episodic characters were there to showcase some aspect of Tenma's character by showcasing some aspect of humanity within their character. And that way I think of Tenma as not like I'm sorry I get on your case about the Superman connection there, but I see him as more as the melting pot of all the characters in the story. Instead of being the epitome of them, he's the most everyman of them all. Like all of the other characters in Monster have some kind of extraordinary thing about them. His extraordinary thing is just that he's like his medical thing, which is more of just kind of a plot device thing.
Sure.
But it's that he keeps going at this thing somehow and doesn't break fully. Like, there are multiple times where he's about to break.
Right.
Like,
and
it's usually another character that comes in and helps him. It's not his own inner strength that comes in and saves him.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when I say Superman. Because when I think about Superman, it's not the powers that make him uninteresting to a lot of people. It's the fact that he holds to, such sort of paragon ideals that it's unrelatable, right? Whereas with Tenma, that's why I feel like he's Superman in a way, but it's Superman if he was told that he had to murder someone. It's this thing where it completely clashes with who they are, right?
Sure. I just think Superman is so wooden to the point where he would just be like, no, and then move on. I think this is more of a story about
whereas this is, let's make an entire story about that.
Right. This is the Superman resolves to kill someone. Right. And then goes about an entire story resisting that resolve.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And has to help other people along the way. And in some ways, he would have helped. There's all these little moments in Monster where you go, if we changed this one thing and took it out, the whole story collapses. Yeah. Like, this is not a bad thing if it happens 1,000 times. This is a bad thing if there's like that one thing that breaks the internal logic of the story. And it's like, if you remove this one thing, the whole story collapses.
Because the themes of Monster are so overarching and everything that they can, you have Johan as a villain, right? So you can have things that kind of like conveniences that sort of need to happen because it's Johan, right? That's part of the whole point,
Right. I'm more talking about things with characters interacting. So an example would be if Anna didn't tell Tenma to save as many people as possible and then just disappearing on him when she needed to survive and stuff. Would he have had the...
I think he still would have because it's...
But would he have just hidden then? I think he might have just hidden.
no, because I think
There's a possibility. At least
I
in
think
my
I think he still would have done it because he still needed to go from place to place, and you end up needing people, right? And
Okay.
and like
Sure.
it still would have been Tenma's way to like help sort of treat himself,
Okay.
but but the thing is that because someone else said it, it was like this grounding point, this anchor that he could fall back on because he's like, yes, that's right, that's who I am, because he didn't know himself.
Mm-hmm. DBE 1000 with the Twitch Prime for the 9th month in a row. I think you're the first 9-month subscriber, DBE.
Yeah.
Hi guys, hope you have a great stream. I'll have to watch this later as I need to catch up.
Oh
okay,
boy,
no
well, are
worries,
you in
DBE.
for a ride?
Yeah, have a good one. Oh, people are talking about Batman, but Batman can't kill anyone. He is extremely interesting. I thought Batman had guns. Batman does kill people sometimes.
The thing is, Batman, see, not killing people is different than do no harm, right? And I guess Tenma does knock some people out sometimes, but oh yeah, Heckle's
Jack
cool.
Blast. I wouldn't know about this show if it wasn't for the bros. I was a bit bored, so I saw them reacting to it, and so far I'm liking the slow burn of this anime. Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. Was there a character you actually disliked? For me, it is Latte.
I can understand that.
I can understand Latte being a weaker character of the show, but I wouldn't say I ever
no.
disliked anyone other really than shoot. What was his name?
The baby?
No, the baby I found hilarious.
Um,
Shoot. The is more just because he was a creepy, annoying thing that just ended up being a dead end. The disciple.
oh yeah, yeah.
The disciple of Johann, who was brought to him as like a meeting thing, who was another kid from
Right. Who ended up
Kinderheim.
just kind of he ended up just sort of not really being a character. He was just a plot point for a little bit.
Yeah, he was
But-
kind of a look.
He was a reason for Ava and Tenma to reconnect.
Yes.
But the character that I actually really didn't like was Roberto. I loved what they did with his backstory, but the thing is, we got that at the very end of the show,
Sure.
so it's kind of like, okay, cool, but I didn't like the journey. Like,
He didn't
like the whole
Big
point.
Dick Roberto.
Well, no, because the whole point that Roberto's here, it's like, okay, but why should I care about this person that Johann has working for them? Like,
Right.
it,
I didn't
it was
I didn't-
arbitrary, you
Right.
know?
I didn't expect much of a character from him anyway, so I didn't have a reason to dislike him.
Right.
If a
anything,
character
it
is
was
just a gun in some
Mhm.
ways, then I don't see them really as a character that even needs to be disliked.
well, but the thing for me is that I get screen time jealous.
Oh,
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, yeah, Roberto.
You do,
Oh
that's
no,
true.
Roberto. You know.
see,
But-
I'm all about percentage of quality.
and I think
percentage-
Roberto fails that test too.
Well, yeah, but
But-
I don't see that as a negative thing. I see that as percentage of quality screen time for the reasons why I like a character. But then it's also the same thing of percentage of negative stuff for why I dislike a character. So if a character is on screen for 10 hours, but only like 5 minutes of it has a part that I actively dislike, it's easier for me to forgive them
Sure.
because the rest of the time they're at least just
Mhm.
doing their part. They're
Yeah.
I'm doing my part.
Yeah.
But I remember, if anything, the only time I was really worried that I would dislike a character, like seriously, was both Ava and Lung. I think there were minor
yes.
moments where I was
Yeah.
worried
Mhm.
what type of character they would become,
Yeah.
and then once they started going into their characters, I'm like, okay, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm 100% on board.
I
with
was
this.
really worried I was going to not like Lung when he's set up so much to be this hyper competent person,
Uh-huh.
and yet he was so unwilling to be like easily swayed by his own bias.
Yep.
I was like, they have to make that a thing. Like,
Yep.
if they don't, and it's just that he's just sort of the antagonistic force for Tenma, because why not?
Right.
I was going to be very pissed. But
For sure.
they didn't do that, and they had him get introspective on everything and whatnot, and his whole episode, with his family and stuff, was just absolutely
that was
fantastic.
amazing.
And that gardener, that was one of the other of my favorite characters. Like,
with Ava.
yeah, because it wasn't
Yeah.
just like him as a character, because he was a very very simple character, but he was supposed to be a simple guy, right? But
Right.
the way that he interacted with Ava was fantastic, because that was a side of Ava that we didn't see. Both sides we saw that episode.
Yeah. Characters that we just kind of wanted to give special highlight to. First one, I think, is Grimmer. We need really no reason to say why We specifically
Yeah,
need
I
to give
mean-
a highlight to Grimmer. I think Grimmer is one of the best characters in Monster, just out
Yep.
of it
Mhm.
all. In some ways, he kind of steals the show anytime he's on screen or anytime he's involved with the story. Much to, in some ways, the showcasing of why Tenma is a decent protagonist, but he is always, for the most part, eclipsed by the side characters in terms
Right.
of being just way more interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I would say Tenma's interest goes in that we actually do see him change a lot over the course of the show. It's a slow burn, but he does change a lot. With Grimmer, we end up getting this dual nature of him, where he's actually kind of a comedy character in some ways.
Yes.
He's actually
Yes.
this tragic character.
Mhm.
He's actually this
He's
kind of
broken.
terrifying, broken character.
Yeah.
He fills a lot of the roles of multiple characters combined all into one thing, making him in some ways kind of that potentially problematic, edgy OC character.
Right.
That-
But it so works because there's so much humanity to him. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Every character that's good with kids in this story ends up having really, really good character
Mm-hmm.
moments. And Grimmer is basically just made to be a dad at some
Yep.
point.
Mhm.
Like, he's going to be
Which
a great...
makes it.
Oh, right. He's not going to be a great dad.
he's just not going to be a dad. Which, oh man, yeah. Like, and I love it too because the whole idea of the, like you mentioned, the sort of edgy protagonist, you know, hidden power that causes them to decimate their foes.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot
whatnot.
about him that I've seen badly done
Exactly.
in other...
But it's like,
Yeah.
this is how you do
OCs,
it.
yeah.
This is how you do it well. One, they never actually showed him
Mhm.
doing that, which was fantastic. And
Yeah.
there's the whole idea of that smile that's this nice, warm, you know, awesome smile. But then you realize, oh wait, there is nothing inside, like behind that smile, or at least there is. But the thing is, he doesn't feel like there is.
Yeah.
Which just breaks your heart.
Yeah. So Grimmer is my favorite character probably in the show if I had to choose one, but I can't really
Yeah.
do that with Monster, especially having just finished it recently. But one of the characters that I think gets constantly overlooked, but is actually one of the best characters in terms of what they represent in the story, but also the little things that he does, and that's Dieter.
Yep.
I would
Mhm.
say if y'all are
The
sleeping
goodest
on
boy.
like the goodest boy in Monster, Dieter is that goodest boy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, Dieter is amazing.
Yep. He's absolutely wonderful. He's like Jiminy Cricket combined with like a puppy from JoJo's that doesn't get killed. Like it's wonderful. And he's just going
Oh,
around
yes.
and the thing is, here's the thing. It's not just that Dieter is, you know, a perfect good boy. It's that he is connected to Tenma because Tenma saved him, right?
Mhm.
Tenma showed him that there was light in this world.
Yeah.
And then that way, when he reminds Tenma
right.
that there is light in this world, it's not just that he's some random, you know, good boy telling him don't do the bad thing, right?
Yeah.
It's in some ways Tenma reminding himself.
Yep.
Because it's the rippling consequences of the actions that Tenma took, the nurturing that Tenma gave Dieter,
Yeah.
right? That saved Dieter from the brink, right? And it does the same for Tenma, and that's
Yep.
absolutely fantastic. Like anytime you can do that in a story, do it. It gives it so much more impact.
Yeah, Dieter's introduction, Jacob reminded me recently with that the whole thing with his introduction is done in one episode.
Yeah.
And that
believe
blows
so.
my mind to think about. Because I was thinking that it was at least 2 or 3 episodes, and if you got all that
I think
in one episode,
Yeah, I think
it's something where
yeah.
it goes beyond just having him be a
Yep.
just being beyond being a good boy. Like you said,
Yeah.
he is an example of where the right kind of nurturing would have changed Johan, would have never created Johan, would never have brought Anna, even in some ways, to, you know, all that, you know, that trauma of that whole thing where she ends up maybe repressing a lot of the things that made her into the person that she is. And it's
Yep.
something that's really crazy to think about now that we have the full context as to what went on, with Anna and Johan
Mhm.
in the background and stuff. Knowing that Dieter, in a lot of ways, was helpful more recently with her,
Mhm.
staying strong and able to bring up these kinds of things and also, pull back from the brink of,
Yeah.
of madness after it.
And I hope it was all in one episode. I feel like they might have done something where like Dieter was introduced kind of offhandedly at the end of another episode, and then it's the thing of like as soon as Tenma leaves, then he's like, Dieter, why did you say you wanted a soccer ball, or whatever, and then that was the end of the episode or something. But
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes more sense now, because I was not at all thinking that it was one episode in terms of like, wait, how long was it? But
yeah,
if it's that, then that makes sense too, that it would be primarily in one episode. Another character that I would say in terms of just side character, what have you, that you'd think actually was a main character in terms of their screen time, but actually is more of a side character in terms of their screen time, even though their role in the story is that of kind of a main character, is Anna.
Yep.
Like in some ways, Anna / Nina, if you will. She's one of, if not the most important character in the story based on the
like plot and stuff.
The plot.
Uh-huh.
Like she kind of is the key to the whole story.
Right. She's the magical girl. Like
the way you simplify things just hurts me sometimes.
Just crushes your heart.
Crushes my
soul.
heart, yes. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, I know what you mean, but I can't let you say that to these people because they
Right.
don't get it.
Well, yeah, the people that have seen the show get it, you know. Yeah.
Let's extrapolate out from that, Jacob.
Right.
Magical girl meaning she has
the big plot relevance that's mysterious and unknown fully to herself that she
Yep.
has to explore, and by exploring her magical powers, being her memories, she comes to better understand herself and grow as an individual that ends up being vital in defeating the evil, usually through the power of love and friendship, which
Yes.
is basically what happens.
Right. It is basically what happens. And yet, all throughout it, she's a character who is struggling constantly. One of the things that surprised me so much was how much the show was willing to let her struggle through this.
Yeah.
It was not an easy time, and it wasn't just some edgy thing of people dying around you and life is horrible. It was a constant thing of her searching, actively going after the truth, trying to figure out what is going on, why is all this happening, and taking a proactive role in all of this. It was something that astounded me that they would give so much impetus to the story to this character. Not that I thought it was a bad idea, but that I thought, wow, I had lower expectations and they exceeded them, like they exceeded my expectations based on what the story seemed to be doing. Like it seemed to be primarily Tenma, I'm basically Dr. Batman and I can't kill, like that kind of thing. Like I understand that kind of thing, but instead over the course of time Tenma became this much more layered, complex character, and then as they did the time skips and stuff, Anna ended up becoming this character that I went from being like, oh, someone protect her, to the, oh my god, Anna's going off, like she's going off, she's not being stopped here, what is happening?
Well, the whole thing where Anna shows up with in that little therapy session that was
yeah. Just a little bit. Little bit. And yet she has very little screen time as a character in the grand scheme of the story.
Right. She literally is just like, has a point where it's like, oh, I passed out and now I'm bedridden for, a couple months and just am out of the story for, like what was it, like 15 episodes?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But okay, so we've gone through, I'd say, the majority of the characters that need kind of the specific talking about here. But let's talk about the story, because this is something that on the literal stuff with regards to the plot, the story is one for the record books in terms of just how much they decided, Naoki Urasawa decided to pack in here.
Right.
And yet still make it be a cohesive narrative.
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder sometimes when you're making like a story or you're DMing a campaign or you're setting up some kind of a narrative and you realize that you're just kind of chucking things in there that don't need to be in there?
Absolutely.
But you really would love to make it all tie together and everything. It's just like, oh, if only we could make this work.
I went through all of that with Battle Lines. Of being like, okay, and then here's where this thing's gonna happen. And then it's like, wait, hold on. Hold
up a minute.
That is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever had. You know, like, at least for this story. Maybe in a different kind of story. Not for this one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It sounds like there are characters with darkness imprisoning them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the aspect of their past holding on to characters and giving them feeling of being caged in. Yeah, that's definitely a part of the show.
It sounds does Monster have any segment of episodes where it's very slow? Yes, but the thing is that the slower episodes I would say are the best episodes. It has parts where it's rip-roaring and moving really quick. But when it gets to those slow parts, you don't have to worry about it really, I would say, because each episode in its little bite-sized self is delicious.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the plot, like, specific things with regards to where they kind of decided to kind of do this story. They have the episodic stuff, which I'd say about 60% of the story. But then about the other 40% are these very tight little mini arcs. And some of them go into very longer arcs as you move towards the end of the story. You know, everything with regards to Ruinheim, everything with regards to Prague, I would say.
Yeah, Schuold.
Based upon generally specific locations or timelines. But the parts that I think need to be kind of talked about is, one, the ending little plot like arc there is almost like a perfect, tightly compact narrative there, and it's special. It's actually terrifying and just genuinely brilliant. But then you have these other ones here where Johan is still a bit askew as a character, and he ends up pulling things together for the Munich stuff with Schuold.
Right.
And it's a thriller, mystery, horror, mini arc. The whole thing with Richard. And
Richard.
Orchestrating Richard's, demise.
Like that was... Because here's the thing.
That will make your nuts go into your stomach. Like, that's the kind of thing where you're just like, can we get... That's unnerving.
Can we get some F's in chat for Richard? Because,
for real.
The stuff that we had seen Johan do with people, right, previously, that was terrifying, right? That was terrifying.
Yeah.
But this hit home. Yeah. Like, this, like, not that I've experienced with, like, drunken parents or anything like that, but the idea that it was, like, this person that was struggling, right? He was going through his own thing, and he was trying to just do the best that he could.
Yeah.
And he was doing it, right? He was making progress. He was getting it, and he got to talk with his daughter, and like they were gonna meet and everything. Yeah. And then literally that night, it's like, why? Like, it's coming. This guy's gonna die, right? Because he's getting too close. Of course, Johan's gonna take him out, but the fact that he takes him out and the way that he takes him out, it just
shake you to the core.
Yep.
And that's just one mini arc within an arc in Monster.
Yep.
Yeah. That's something that's repeated over and over and over again throughout the show. That's why I'm probably going to rewatch the show entirely in the dub, just to get it all over again and let it wash over me, because there's a lot in this story that you don't really realize how thematically connected it is, because the plot kind of moves at a pace where you're making these little logical leaps that are not, I would say, bad writing logical leaps. They're more just saying, hey, keep up with us. The story might be slow in terms of pacing, but the actual effects of the, steps taken are pretty vast and far reaching.
And because one, Johan's motivations aren't always clear.
Yes.
And
they actually genuinely shift at certain points.
Without going too much into detail, like from Johan's perspective of how they're changing. Because that's the thing. Having one of those is tough.
Yeah. One of those is tough enough.
Having both of those, that's an exponential increase in the toughness right there. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
and there were some points where it was confusing, especially considering that there were certain facts and things that people had wrong. Like, they would give exposition and there would be incorrect exposition.
Yep.
And you
couldn't trust the actual like story in some ways.
And at some points it'd be super confusing and you'd be like, wait, what? And then maybe they just sort of let that sit for 20 episodes and then they'd bring that back up later and it's like, wait, you remember that little inconsistency there?
And
well, here's why it was there.
And you slap yourself because you realize, oh, it has nothing to do with the story being retroactively fixed in some way. It's just that's how brilliant sometimes the show is. It just leaves you there scratching and you're like, what? Oh, sorry. Scurvy, Nuts, Lemon Tea, thank you so much for the follow. And Small Time, thank you so much for the follow as well. Good to have you here. What about Dr. Wilford Brimley? Help remind me who that was again. I don't know if we're being trolled or if that's an actual character.
I have no idea. But there's something big from Blue Jonolith. When asked where he gets ideas from, Urasawa said, I have been illustrating all my life. Inspiration is everywhere. When I get in the bath, when I get out, it's whether you are perceiving these ideas and whether you are able to catch them. He also said that while manga is often looked at as simple, he makes sure to use subtleties to show dramatic expression and convey emotion, claiming you won't find two expressions that are the same. On his storytelling process, Urasawa states, and then it cuts off.
Yeah. Okay, so Shavon, thank you so much for the follow as well. Glad to have you here.
Yes.
Okay, so this is something that goes on throughout the plot and stuff, but if you look at the episodic episodes, this is something that I think that the story did that intrigued someone like me, who gets basically a little bit of a semi when I hear the words ensemble cast in their story, is that I can't have something that's that episodic if the episodic stories and characters don't have some relevance into the main plot.
Right.
And here's the thing. This show does not connect the dots for you. Right. This show does not connect the dots for you. Maybe a little bit towards the end, once you've got a whole lot of things all kind of jumbled about in your brain. You need to kind of have a little moment of someone saying, so that means this show doesn't do that really. But in the episodic stories, there are multiple moments where you go, wait, this is connected to that, which is the thing where it's connected to that. So does that mean this person is there because of this? And then you're supposed to just kind of go, probably. The show's not going to tell you that that's necessarily the thing. But when I was going through this and when the pacing started to slow down, they had already had enough episodic episodes where they brought back the characters and their relevance in the overall plot that I was looking actually for those moments where the characters would resurface in the plot later. And then by that point, they had actually found a way, and I think this is because in some ways this is, an adaptation based off of a manga, that Urasawa found a way to blend in the episodic stuff with genuine character motivation development and stuff like that. But also having little characters be introduced and just like, they're introduced now. That whole little thing is introduced.
Right, like Roberto's backstory that's just sort of subtly dropped 30 episodes prior, however long before it was. Yeah. Other things with Grimmer dropped before we even met Grimmer. In some ways it's something where it's just like you get these little moments in the show where you're realizing that you're getting a real human kind of drama experience with the show as a whole, right, in the story, but you're being told a tale that's been woven to be a full complete package. And even when the side story, one-off episodic stuff happens and what have you, there's some aspect of it that still ties back to the overall story. Even for the ones that you really know that they don't tie back into the plot. They tie back into the overall, message or themes or what have you of the story in some way that's just really good. So all that to say, this plot, the story, it sells it. It sells it really well. It's 10 out of 10 material. Really good stuff. And like, remember when Tenma is gonna have his trial.
Okay.
And then all the people basically come up and they're like, yes, let's contact everybody, like let's rally to Tenma's defense because of how he's helped us. Those kinds of things, it's like that is the best kind of fan service. Like, I mean, okay, the best kind of fan service is Ava toting a shotgun back to back with Lung as they go, kill Roberto. But
all right, Jacob, don't tell everyone your wet dreams now. I mean,
how did you know about that? But that's basically the next level.
Yes. So we haven't talked about the monolithic antagonist in the room. The the force of dark nurture.
Indeed.
And when people talk about monster,
they talk about Lung's wife.
I was trying to set you up multiple times with so many dramatic pauses. I'm like,
it was taking so long for me to think of something. I'm like, I need to make it good, like, because the thing is that there aren't actually many characters like that are just like despicable, awful human beings, like not too many, but like that are the not obvious ones. Like, yeah, of course I could say one of the Nazis,
Dieter's adoptive dad.
Ugh.
So here's the thing. Johann is this character that breaches beyond I would say, the walls of what an antagonist is meant to be with regards to their capabilities. So Johann exists in a universe, universe of this AU of the real world, where there are no superpowers. There are no crazy, dramatic, things that people can do. It's just real people. And they really try to sell it as being a real world story. Johann just kind of floats his dark tendrils into this story and just says, what if I was your dark god? Like, what if
why won't you love me?
What if you didn't fear, but you feared me? Yeah. And Johann, they do this
terrifying
thing. I can't even talk about Johann without mentioning the sound design.
Yeah.
Yes. So let me just say, one of the most genius things about Johann is not actually when he shows up, but it's when he's not showing up.
And
when Monster as a show has anything that seems abnormally terrifying happen, there's this scratchy kind of little horror technique sound effect stuff that goes on in the background.
But it's done so well.
And it is so terrifying. Because while you know on some level that there's no danger that Tenma can really get into. Because
everyone else is fair game.
Everyone else is fair game.
Yeah.
And Johann doesn't seem to care. And a lot of it also, I think, has to be with the fact that we met him as a kid.
Right.
And when you meet him as a kid, and you look into the eyes of death itself, there's something not so cool staring back into you from this child's eyes.
Yeah. And the way that they'll show him without fully showing him, and we'll just recognize that suit and the blonde hair, and we'll be like, wait, he was right over there, and then someone that had seen him previously will just be like, I don't feel comfortable right now, like it's.
This was something that I think the anime could have really flubbed on because it's an adaptation of a different type of material. Johann as a character is one that I would say is terrifying in the imagination. And I would say that a visual auditory medium kills the imagination or is less helpful for the imagination than a primary
like a book
visual medium.
Because with a book, you're directly working with their imagination. You don't have any other
There's nothing moving.
Right. There's no music. There's no... Right.
You see the drawing. You see what he looks like.
Yep.
But other than that, if they translated over his voice, his look, his
Yeah.
movements, the way he talked, the cadence with which he,
Yep.
delivered his chilling statements that, unravel the minds of people and pulling them directly into madness.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he's a great old one
Mhm.
from mythic lore,
Right.
and yet he looks like the most gorgeous, young,
Hey.
blonde, perfect boy.
That's a great way to just do a gulag in D&D. Just have them be a child with some, some bad stuff happen to them or whatever.
I'm saying Johann is not the warlock. He's the one warlocks
I know.
patrons to.
Yeah. Hey, and for role-playing purposes, you say you're a warlock and your patron is the great being Johann,
Oh my god. That's terrifying. Yeah. We can definitely see where he probably drew inspiration maybe from characters like Griffith to make this charismatic sociopath, basically.
But the thing is that Griffith is so charismatic and like suave with the things he does. It's the knowledge. It's that in like contrast with the knowledge of the things that he's done that makes him so despicable in my mind. Whereas with Johann, just looking at him, it's like you're getting both in just the visuals.
Yeah, I think that Johann is a better representation because they actually show him less. In some ways, Griffith in some ways is a better character. But I would say Johann is a better antagonist because he goes beyond what makes a person and becomes this force of, like I was saying, pull on my pun, dark nurture. Instead of a force of nature, he's a force of dark nurture. He's basically this. What? What?
No, just the idea of dark nurture. Like, yeah, I just love that because it's a terrible joke, but
I don't get it.
Just the play on words.
Okay.
It just tickles me because
the way you were saying it made it sound like it was some kind of like dark nurture. I'm like, what's the twang for? I don't get it.
But like it's nature, but nurture.
Right.
Dark nurture.
Yeah, but I'm saying nurture specifically.
No, I know, I know. But like in so many stories, they'll try and do like the evil force, and it's so cartoonishly laughable, right?
Right.
Not Johann.
Yeah, Johann is better, I would say, not just because we see him as the dark force, if you will, but he is also shown directly doing what he does. And we have seen many characters in the pre-Johann effect and post-Johann effect.
And that's, I think, what's more terrifying than the idea that Johann might kill people, because eventually there's this idea of, okay, with Tenma, he basically has the super Jesus make people not die skills. So, like, all right, so what are we going to do here? But the fact that Johann can so destroy a person, right? It's the idea that even if they were to not die, that doesn't mean you saved them.
Right. He would break their mind.
Yeah.
With, a few hours spending time with them.
Oh my god. Wait, what's Johann's full name? Are you trying to say that he's a JoJo? No.
Anyway,
but that is a good question. What is Johann's name?
That's the point. We don't know his name. That's kind of the point. He can choose his own name now.
Right. Who's to say that Johann's his name? No way.
Well, Johann isn't his name.
Exactly.
We know it's not his name.
Yep.
Yeah. So the character of Johann could have, I would say, flubbed if they didn't do the adaptation right. And a lot of it, I would say, is when he's not on screen and we see how other characters react to him. It's something, though, where I know that if I heard too much about this show early on, and I was told that there was this guy where he would just speak to you and he would make you do these crazy things, I'd be like, that sounds stupid. Because it sounds like someone is trying to be pretentious and say like, yes, my character understands human beings to the point where he can make them do these crazy things just by talking to them. I'm like, okay, I thought protagonists that had talk no jutsu powers were kind of
for a villain. It's like,
OP.
Come on, you need to at least have them undergo like extensive psychological torture at the hands of the person in order to justify that. But
oh wait, Johann. Yeah. Johann's true name is Tenma. Plot twist. Oh my god. Okay, so when Johann has his moments in the story where he becomes vulnerable, though, where he becomes actually vulnerable and he adjusts, he switches, he changes.
Yep.
There are A couple of them. There are a couple of them.
Yeah.
But the way they handled it and kept me guessing about what he
Right.
really was and how he really became this way, and how all the way up until the very last episode they still kept certain things close to the chest is masterfully done.
Because those things, does it make it maybe feel like kind of sort of a waste of time, or like maybe the author like got tired of certain plot points or didn't know how to resolve it or have the story go on past it?
Why do you try to find the negative
possible.
things all the
No,
time?
I'm saying like I could see some people potentially, you know, like making claims about that if they're just wanting to like feel smart because they're able to hate on Monster and, you know, whatever. But
Who hates on Monster?
there's weird people out there, Caleb. But
They just haven't seen Monster.
yeah, probably. But like the thing is that at no point in the show was I ever doubting that Johan was having those internal changes, right?
Yes.
He felt like a person, which is a hard thing to do
Yes.
when you've built up this crazy force of evil, right? How do you balance the two? But they did, right? And even if we didn't fully understand why he was undergoing the change at a certain time, like when he sees the book, for instance, right? The fact that we've been seeing this book the entire time leading up to that, and then we finally see it and we're like, wait, this thing exists, it's a real thing, and then suddenly there's this big change. It was wonderful.
Am I to expect Rod Serling to appear out of nowhere and start monologuing, or does Monster not do hiatus monologues? No, none of those.
Yeah, they don't do monologues.
No. This is a show don't tell story. The most exposition that's given is just random characters talking about things that have happened.
Right.
And that's not really monologuing from the standpoint of a narrator.
It's them having a
It's
conversation,
a recollection conversation.
Right. It's usually an exploration, not a let's make sure the audience is up to speed.
Yeah. Also, should you watch it dubbed or subbed? Either. I would say that I watched sub, and one of my favorite things about sub is that there are a certain few characters that have such iconic voices.
Naruhodo.
Yes, Lung is one of the main reasons to watch it subbed. His voice is so good. I would say Johan's voice is amazing in the sub as well.
Yeah.
And then also in a weird way, I think all the kids sound better in the sub because there's so many kids in this story.
There are a lot.
And dubs are not usually the best with regards to how they handle subs. Sorry,
how they handle kids'
voices.
Well, and even like when I think about Dieter, like he sounds like a kid. I mean, you know, maybe he isn't. I mean, he probably
he
isn't
might be a 34-year-old woman,
but I would never expect it. And the other thing about the sub is that I've heard that in the dub they do a different like background track stuff. So those
That's
like
true.
scratches and things that we've talked about that gave us so many chills.
Yeah,
those apparently are a
Aren't
bit
in the
different.
dub.
Yeah,
they're different.
yeah.
Yeah, and it has to do with some kind of licensing thing or what have you. But yeah. I've never heard Johan and Lung's voice in any other anime. I'll have to check them out. That's a good point. I don't think I've heard Johan's voice in anything else either.
Yeah, I know I've heard Anna's voice because she's
Yes.
in what was it? Tokyo Godfathers.
Yes, Anna's voice actress is
she's the nurse or
really
something.
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she's gone on to do a lot of stuff, I think.
Yeah.
But,
But
yeah.
it's an A-list cast in both the dub and the sub in terms of how well they perform their roles.
If you're fans of Critical Role,
Yes.
Liam
out the
O'Brien is Tenma.
Yes.
And one of the characters early on is Tao, and then another character I can't remember who is.
Well, I'm not sure if Laura Bailey is Dieter, but I think
Yes,
it's either,
Laura Bailey's
I think
Dieter.
Laura Bailey
That's
is
right.
the kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dieter. Yeah.
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 Dieter is Naruto in the sub. Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. What's Critical Role? A Critical Role is a D&D Twitch show basically with a bunch of voice actors, like really popular voice actors doing the whole thing.
It's longer than One Piece in runtime.
Whoa. Are you sure about that?
170 episodes, 3 hours minimum, 4 hours average.
And it doesn't sound actually that.
That's 12 episodes of anime.
Yeah, but it's what, like 900 divided by,
It's less than 1200.
3.1 in terms of hours.
Yeah. So definitely more.
Oh, you're saying it's 1,200 hours of Critical Role?
Yep.
You sure about that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
1,000 hours easily.
Okay, dang.
Or wait, sorry.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
No, not 1,200 hours.
Yeah.
400 hours.
Yeah. That's about the size of One Piece, I would say. They're about equal in that case.
Johannes Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, Johan's dubbed voice is very good too. I've only heard a little bit of Johan's dubbed voice, but yeah. Gotcha. John Cena, are you sure about that? Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, favorite characters. We have a bunch of favorite characters. Mine is probably Grimmer if I had to choose.
Yeah,
with Lung being a second best.
Yeah, I would say mine is Grimmer too. Because how could he not be my favorite character?
Yeah.
Lung is also amazing. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I know I've said it so many times, but Ava and Lung, like I don't often get so into ships with characters is the thing. Like it happens sometimes, but it's not that often.
Oh man.
But man, you
will die on this ship.
I will die with this ship.
Yeah, you will go down with this ship.
That's right. Yeah,
as it sinks into oblivion.
Yep. Lung's VA was in Black Lagoon, and he has few roles in general. In the dub or sub?
I think that's in the sub. That makes sense, though.
Gotcha.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So as we start to kind of wrap things up here a bit, I think we need to talk about kind of the technical things surrounding this show that I would say make it one of those best entry animes in some ways just ever. Like one of the best entry anime.
Yeah, because you can show it to people that are not into anime, and they will be able to get into this.
The art style does not take away from the immersion for a non-anime fan.
Exactly. Yeah, it just feels very normal.
That is something that I think we as a community need to recognize, is that the art style that a lot of our favorite content has is very much an immersion breaker for people that aren't ready for that.
Yep.
But Monster is something that needs a live action adaptation so that people will go back and watch the original material when either they flub it or they just do an average adaptation or what have you.
Monster just looks like a cartoon. Now that might give some people some surprises on episodes that go into red light districts, but but it just looks like something you would see over in the West.
Yeah. My mom watched the episode with the Turkish girl in the bathroom on Sci-Fi Channel long ago and loved it and made me show her the series. Oh, that's awesome, Zelmir.
Nice.
That's legit. Oh my gosh.
That
Monster
awesome.
has a Western adaptation on the works. No, I think what is that Monster has been constantly rumored to have a Western adaptation in the works. I am very much in the group of people that have recently, over the last 5-6 months, looked into it, and there were almost points where Guillermo del Toro almost got it to work, and then he ended up shifting focus and went on to do something else. Yep. But he really wants to do it.
It would be so good. You wouldn't have to spend a lot of money on it either. You wouldn't.
Yep. No, but see, that's the thing, Jack Blast. I don't care really about the success or failure of Hollywood with live action anime adaptations in some ways. I'm more or less worried about it when it comes to books or Western shows that are already in good circulation here, because then that means it will probably never happen again. But if something flubs really badly, like the Death Note one, I don't really care. It's just fun to laugh at.
Exactly.
Because what it basically means is now a lot of people go back and check out the anime again.
Well, and
then they go, oh, that was so bad. At some point we'll have to do that right, Well,
and I feel like the reason why a lot of anime get badly adapted is because there's certain styles of how the story is
Sure.
told that might not translate as well to Western audiences. So then
Yep.
they try and improve it,
Mhm.
right, to smooth things over, and it just ends up going badly. Whereas with Monster, you wouldn't really have to do any of that.
Nope.
Like, you wouldn't.
You really wouldn't. The screenplay and the moment by moment story stuff translates perfectly
Mm-hmm.
into a Western style
Yep.
soap opera,
Oh yeah.
thriller.
Like-
Would I say thriller? Crime thriller
Yeah.
drama.
Like you could even just have it be a show. Like
Yeah.
like you could just have it be a show and basically just port it over straight, and there you go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just invest into the actors
Mhm.
and you're good.
Yeah, you have a imagine that, a half hour crime drama, that goes down to
No.
20 minutes or whatever with commercials if you wanted to.
No. They would probably make it like an hour-long episode.
Sure. But like you could just almost port it over episode for episode,
Right.
and it would work.
Yeah. I don't really care about how they would do it. I'm more interested in these things happening because as people see how things in some ways go badly, you realize, oh, well, like maybe we need to keep at this and find the right
Right.
thing that'll work, or find the right people to make it work.
Because there's at least a
Yes.
market for it.
Yes, Krillin Gone Wild. Oh my gosh, yes. Who would you cast as Johan? I'm not a casting person. I don't think about those kinds of things. The last time I thought about who would be cast in a translation of
Jim Carrey.
this was when Jacob and I thought up if they did a KOTOR movie, who would they cast in as that? And this isn't a KOTOR stream, so we won't get into that, even though they actually might be doing an Old
Which would
Republic
be
Star Wars movie.
amazing.
They are, though. You know that? They're doing
Yeah.
an
Oh,
Old
right.
Republic.
That's right.
doing an
yeah.
Old Republic Star Wars movie.
I'm doubting it until I actually see,
Yeah.
undeniable proof. But yeah.
But anyways,
Mhm. But for Johan, I feel like, they couldn't just get anybody, but you'd be able to do it. You could make it work. You could definitely make it work, especially since he's not around very often.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. Matt Mercer. No.
No.
He's got too nice of a face. Like, let's be real.
Well, also he's too old.
Yes, definitely.
Like you need basically someone that's almost in some way sickeningly cute.
yeah.
The thing with Johan is that you want him to look tired perpetually, and also like just charming,
Mhm.
like charming, just
Yep.
kind of a hello.
No, Matt Mercer would be Revan. But yeah.
Keanu Reeves would be Revan. I mean, come on, Jacob.
But he needs to be charismatic. He can't do that. Oh wait, no, he'd have the mask. Never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Revan's whole thing was more about speaking strongly rather than being
Whoa.
like a. anyway,
Back on topic. Monster.
on topic here with the Monster. I'd say with the aspect of it being a realistic art style for the
Mhm.
overall presentation and the animation and such, it's something that carries through with a really well done soundtrack, good sound design, really good voice acting. The art style makes it a very good entry level story there, but it's also a crime thriller drama, which hits basically all the notes for, in my opinion, the kind of the lazy typical Western
Mhm.
TV watcher who will watch basically 20 seasons of something that
Right.
repeats the
Uh-huh.
same plot,
Yep.
but
But it's like, hey, let's do that, but let's put depth into it. It's kind of like what A Place Further in the Universe did with cute girls saying cute things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, Keanu as Tenma. Yeah, he's not Asian, but he could totally do that.
Yeah.
The guy who played Joffrey in Game of Thrones is Johan. Oh my god. No, people would just be like, Tenma needs to save someone. It's either the mayor or this kid.
With
I'm
some
choosing
makeup.
the kid. No, kill him, Tenma, kill him. Just
No.
slit his carotid with that
Well,
scalpel.
that's the thing.
Go.
That's the thing, though, is that by the time maybe this comes out, he might fit that role really well, and with some makeup and
Mhm.
some hair stuff,
Yeah,
that actually could work.
yeah, and
And he's a good actor.
he's a good actor, and I'll bet you that he could do the terrifying thing. Like,
He's also. Oh, okay, gotcha. You're talking about that. Okay,
Keanu Reeves.
gotcha.
yeah,
Monster would appeal to Breaking Bad fans, I feel. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
The only thing, Monster isn't edgy enough for Breaking Bad fans.
That's also kind of true. Yeah.
Like the Breaking Bad fans would be like, all right, Johan, what's his plan? What's he gonna do? Yeah, Tenma, get die. You know?
I think that you also as someone who didn't finish Breaking Bad, you
That's
know,
true.
you kind of should. Breaking Bad had a lot of good human drama in it, as well.
It did. Well, and what I did watch was of the earlier seasons, and
Right.
there was a ton of that stuff, and it was awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tone shifts. The Baby is so very Lynchian and Twin
Yeah,
Peaks-ish.
The Baby, I feel like, was
Twin
probably the
Peaks-ish.
weakest part of the story.
I think they're talking about specific shows, Jacob.
Oh,
I don't think they're talking about it being a negative thing with regards to tone shifts. They're just saying that the Baby as a character is so very Lynchian, which I think is a show, and pretty sure I've heard of Twin Peaks, and that's another show.
gotcha.
Meaning that it would appeal to the audience because it reminds them of characters
suddenly
in these.
Nazi conspiracy, organizations and whatnot.
Well, no, that's something that in a lot of ways there's a lot of media nowadays that's covering the whole idea of, actually like going into what kind of crazy things happened, at that time and stuff, and also at the time, post that, horrific time in history. So, yeah. Yeah, it's Amanju. It's a pretty intense story. Monsters really good.
Yep.
Really good. If there's anything to cap off, I would say with Monster as an anime, it's that despite it being slow, despite it having a ton of episodes, and also a lot of side characters that are there to reinforce the themings of the story, it felt like it went by way too quickly.
Yeah.
And that is my highest praise, in my opinion, for Monster, is that the show that was so slow at points went by way too quickly.
Took us a year and a half, and it flew by.
It flew by.
Yep.
So fast. And if you're watching it and you're binging it and stuff like that, have fun, because you'll be caught up to where we are really quickly, and then we'll get to talk about it and stuff on the Discord or what have you. But I really, really want more storytelling like Monster. More storytelling where the characters are held as the crux of where the plot moves and shakes and shifts. And then when you have this ensemble cast of characters, you acknowledge that you don't need to focus or even showcase more than 20 to 30% of them, because the story is going to weave between these characters as you go.
Right.
I in some ways I think shonen has never really learned this, specifically with shonen anime, typical action shonen anime.
Yeah, battle shonen.
Yeah, battle shonen. Thank you for clarifying me, because that's true. I have equivocated in my mind sometimes battle shonen to be all shonen, which is
that's fine. We used to equivocate battle shonen with anime, so
that's true. Yes, that's very true. And you know who you are when you're actually, no, you don't know who you are, but
you know people.
You know who they are, the ones that equivocate all anime to be battle shonen. But I feel like battle shonen needs to take a cue from Monster and realize that you don't need to focus or even show at all your ensemble cast constantly to remind people that it's an ensemble cast. Give a focus to just 3 characters at a time.
Sure.
Maybe 7 at most. But then have the other ones, they're out doing their thing.
Hunter. Yeah.
I think actually Hunter does it very well, because it doesn't ever really focus on too many characters at the same time, even when we get into something like the Chimera Ant arc in the New York. Because in the Chimera Ant stuff, it's the 3, the leaders and the king, and that's it for the Chimera Ants,
because they're the main characters of that story.
I mean, they kind of are.
Anime is Bleach and Naruto, right?
Yes, Kappa.
Oh boy.
Right? Yes, those people used to be me.
Yeah, I mean, we were all there at some point.
Yeah. So that whole just encapsulation of Monster is something that just reminds me I need to rewatch it. I need to get back into like looking at stories from that, not only that meta level, but that level of seeing where characters are the most important thing, and yet whenever they're not the most important thing, they are in complete and total service to the themes of the story that were set out from the beginning.
Right.
And Monster just nails that in spades. And I think this is something that I want to also settle in here as well. Is anytime Jacob or I review an anime or what have you, it's something where on some level, like, maybe take our opinions with a little bit of a grain of salt, in that we haven't watched that much anime. Like, you might have, at the very least.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched that much anime. And when I call Monster a masterpiece, I don't mean it's perfect.
Right.
I mean that in my mind, it perfectly set out to do what it said it was going to do.
Right.
And-
Other than maybe that conversation with Johan and Tenma, they never said they were going to do that specifically, but... and they also didn't do Evangelon, but, you know, yeah.
And some of us will still have our expectations not met perfectly.
But
as of yet.
fanfiction.net exists for a reason. So.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I want more stories put into my path that have this aspect to them where they set out to do a thing and they commit to do the thing. I don't care how much the anime community loves them or dislikes them or what have you. I want to hear about more of those stories.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the simplest way to describe the greatness of Monster. So, yeah. Yeah. That's it. But what are your closing thoughts on Monster as a show?
Naruhodo. Let's get him. It would have been so amazing. It would have been so cool.
Hey,
you know.
So it's the same thing I said earlier, is that the only flaw in Monster is there wasn't enough of certain parts of Monster.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah.
And Jacob will have his fan fiction for that then.
I will. Also, just, yeah.
Perverted Old Man. Fortunately, I watched Death Note first, so I didn't end up with all anime is this.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what was the next anime you watched, though? It's usually when someone watches their second anime, if it reinforces that all anime is like a certain thing, then that's where they believe it's all a certain thing. I remember trying to introduce someone to just Bacano, and they wouldn't watch it because only Naruto and One Piece were the actual anime out there.
Oh, boy.
I told them that, it's like only 13 episodes, and they're like, that sounds lame. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, One Piece has like 900 episodes. And I was like, but you can finish this in a week. And
it's
less.
like, yeah, but then what am I going to do after that? Well, then I've got 50 more anime.
There's more anime.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's just like,
that age-old debate.
It hurts
yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized there was a distinction between anime and Western cartoons before I was way too deep in the abyss to associate everything as anime.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Hope the
that's
elevator didn't
cool.
hurt too much.
Nice. Also, where do we add shows for polls for you guys to react to? Discord. You guys do not add things directly to it. We basically just listen to the talking on Discord, just in general, and people pass things along to us and say, hey, check out this show. And we listen. And over the course of time, we add things to our own internal kind of list.
And then based on what we want to watch, we make polls, and then there you go.
So, also, someone brought it up. Thank you very much for bringing this up, Darwin. Parasite is going to be the replacement for Monster. Yes.
Indeed.
Parasite, the Maxim, specifically, is the anime that will be replacing Monster's reactions on Mondays. Which has the smartest writing? Monster versus Slime, Kappa.
It's definitely like Slime. Those last few episodes
I
just...
think you know the answer to that one.
Oh, boy. Just beats the pants off of Monster.
Mushishi also fits. You really care about the characters even if they change each week, usually. Huh. Oh, there's Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which is in the top 10 for the same reason. Characters.
That was just on a poll, actually.
Yeah, it was on a poll.
Yeah.
For the one replacing this, actually. It got
second
place, yeah.
Yep.
I watched Naruto and One Piece, then I watched a lot of different shows, then Ouran High School, one about vampires, a harem anime that was actually good. Okay, so you watched a lot of different things.
Was the vampire and the harem anime one anime, or was it two?
It says, I can't recall the harem anime's name, but basically the plot was around everyone has a number of times they can cast magic, and society treats those with the highest numbers as higher class. The MC is the lowest count, 10.
One per episode or one per girl he bangs?
Yeah, exactly. My preference is short anime. Yeah, I know what you mean. Hey, check out Gintama. Hey, that's a good recommendation. Thank you. It's a bit long, but yeah. Do we have an ETA on the Attack on Titan reaction? No. Later.
So the thing about the Attack on Titan reaction is that it's thick.
It's thick. It's super thick.
It is like one of the biggest videos we've ever done. Certainly the biggest discussion for a single episode we've ever done. So just the rendering and like
gonna take a
uploading
while to
and stuff
render
takes a long time.
Yeah. Y'all will love Parasite. Oh, I'm so happy then.
Cool.
So what do you know about the shows that have won the poll, just to know? Not much. Man, the Politics and Legend of the Galactic Heroes is amazing. Oh, that sounds awesome. Okay, looks like we're breaking off from discussion here.
Yep.
Thank you all so much for tuning in and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This was a show, y'all. This was, I'd say, one of the shows that I will not readily recommend to people, but the minute someone says that they're open to anime, like, then I will go, okay, so Monster. But there are other shows out there that are kind of I will shill whether or not they want me to, you know?
Like Domestic Girlfriend.
And Monster is that one where they go, you know, I want a good, like, I want to sit down and have a good story. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Let's go.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think of all the anime that I put in like the notch under my belt, this is the one that truly stands, I would say, on its own 2 feet and doesn't really have any others that you kind of need to you need to kind of say like, well,
right,
Monster is great, but, you know,
yeah, exactly,
Monster is good, but you should watch first, you know, or
right, as long as it's just something where they don't need to have like those thrill a minute kind of shows, you know, like that's the only thing I could really see, but that's it. Like,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have a good one for sure. So yes, other streams, y'all. We have tomorrow on Tuesday we have the Berserk manga volume review stream.
Yep.
We only have 3 more volumes of Berserk to go, I believe.
It's crazy. We're gonna finish it up just in time for RTX.
Yes, we're going to be at RTX also next month, which is going to be awesome. Thursday we've got Jacob playing Dota 2. All streams are at 3 p.m. Pacific time. And then you got me on Friday playing The Witcher 3 and going through the Hearts of Stone DLC. And I have arachnophobia! And this freaking game is just full of spiders at this point.
I've heard him screaming.
So
if
you want to see me freak out with spiders, go check out that stream on Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific.
And then podcast on Monday.
And podcast on Monday again. Yep. In fact, depending on how these Attack on Titan reactions keep going, if we end up having like too much stuff to discuss, it might spill over into a podcast at one of these points, Jacob.
I mean,
Mr. Manga Reader over here.
Although, I mean, the discussion for this last episode is like a solid 2 hours, so, you know.
Spoiler alert. You don't need to tell them everything, Jacob.
So
yeah, get hyped for that, y'all.
Yeah.
But yeah, Attack on Podcast.
This is podcast 91.
This is podcast 91. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.